We had this from CNN. House impeaches Alejandro Mayorkas, first cabinet secretary to be impeached in almost 150 years. Wow. They say the results came 1 week after the stunning loss House Republicans suffered when they tried to impeach Mayorkas, and GOP defections and an absence sank the initial House floor vote. Last week, the absence of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and the surprise attendance by Texas Democrat Al Green, who had just had surgery and was wheeled into the chamber to vote, denied Republicans a majority. However, we now have the victory here. Only one cabinet official has previously been impeached in American history. Secretary of War William Belknap in 1876. Did not know that. The embarrassing initial defeat of the Mayorkas impeachment effort was quickly followed up by another floor failure over a standalone Israel aid package. Only crystallized the GOP's year-long struggle. Blah, blah, blah. We get it. The good news is, after this, following the banging of the gavel, celebrations from Republican House members, they will handily hand over their resolution to Mitch McConnell, for which he will promptly put it into the shredder, walk away, and go back to selling out the United States to foreign adversaries and dictators and war machines, et cetera, et cetera.
You guys said nothing's going to happen from it. And Michael, you specified because they needed 2/3 in the Senate for this to go through. And you just think that's DOA.
To convict.
But hold on. Not only do they need 2/3, they actually need the speaker, or they need anyone to actually bring it to a vote. So it's likely going to be thrown in the garbage. That's it.
So first,
like
the Senate.
Chuck Schumer would have to affirmatively schedule a vote or schedule hearings. And it's not even clear that there's a constitutional obligation for him to do so. It's uncharted territory. So there will be a lot of debate over what's actually required of Schumer at this juncture, because it's a little bit different, as far as I understand it, from a presidential impeachment. Like, there are less mandatory steps that kick in once the impeachment takes place. Although there was even debate that when Trump was impeached the first time and Republicans controlled the Senate.
You want to grab your mic?
And the Republicans controlled the Senate, that McConnell might not even be obliged to hold impeachment hearings in that eventuality. So it's like, it's open-ended as to what is required of anyone here.
Nothing's going to happen.
No, I mean, it's really, it's what's been going on in the House this whole time. They can pass anything they want, but it's never going to get taken up. It's never going to go anywhere.
I will be fair, okay? We can't expect that much. They have a very slim majority in the House. They don't have the Senate, nor the White House, so I don't know what more anyone could expect. That being said, in an election year, Republicans getting this declaration that we are actively trying to do something, whether it's effective or not, or whether it's just politicking, is still going to be good for Republicans, because you've got Democrats in every major city freaking out about the illegal immigration crisis. And to the point where I think it was it Al Sharpton called it an invasion?
Yeah.
So when you've got, man, it's getting bad in Chicago, the black community coming out, specifically criticizing the mayor over what's going on with illegal immigration. They don't care about the Democrat, Republican. They're just like, why is this happening? Why are our community centers and schools being handed over? Why aren't you doing anything about it?
That's happening in Boston, too. It's really pretty bad. And in Chicago, too. Did you see the mayor came out and he said $17 million is going specifically to black and brown businesses to feed the illegal immigrants in shelters? He's like, but I'm giving you money.
Yep.
Yeah, it's still not enough.
Amazing.
But what does impeaching the Homeland Security Secretary do to substantially address any of that?
It doesn't have to actually do anything.
Right.
It's as simple as this. The average person who is experiencing hardship does not follow the news, does not know who Mayorkas is, does not know what his job is, but they will hear breaking news. Republicans have impeached him over the border crisis. And they're going to go, wow, well, at least someone's doing something.
And
and if you go to the average person and ask them, what was Mayorkas' job? I mean, many conservatives are going to be like, I don't know. And if you go to the average person who's complaining about illegal immigrants, they're going to be like, don't know, don't care. I mean, look, I can tell you, I can put it this way. With all due respect to the average person who may hear this passively and it may change their mind, I don't expect the majority of the United States, of the average working person, to know the full details of what the DHS secretary is supposed to be doing, what he should have done. This is why they vote for people they trust. It's representative constitutional republicanism. And so when they say, I don't know the intricacies of Mayorkas' job, what I do know is that he's supposed to be the person working the border. He's not. It's really simple. You fire the guy. Okay, well, guess what? Republicans can come out and say, we tried to fire him. And the Democrats would not follow through because it takes the House and the Senate to move forward with the impeachment. And Democrats in the Senate said, we're not interested in firing this guy. So if you're concerned about immigration, vote for us. We're trying.
But Republicans also say that Mayorkas is simply implementing Biden's immigration policy. So you could swap out anybody to preside over the Department of Homeland Security, and it wouldn't change the ultimate policy if it's coming from the top down.
Fair point. They should impeach Joe Biden too.
They should do.
But but there's a political reason why they're not going to. Joe Biden, with his brain turned to jelly, how does he win? I mean, Jon Stewart came out with his new Daily Show, his return to the Daily Show yesterday. It's being praised by everybody. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. Democrats are furious over it.
They don't like it.
Republicans are cheering. They're like, he spends the first half of it. He does rag on Trump, but boy, does he really roast Biden for having a broken brain. So they don't want to impeach Joe Biden because they think they're going to beat him at the ballot box. But they have an open impeachment, quote, inquiry against Biden on unrelated stuff. I know it really is simply politics. If they do impeach him, Democrats might go, no, wait, don't. And then Schumer is going to come out and be like, I think it's only fair that we actually hear what our senators have to say about this. And then he gets impeached.
That is an anti-Semitic accent you just did.
Please I'm just doing it.
That was a New York accent.
That was a New York. Be fair, and then they're going to bring in Newsom or somebody else. Like, I don't know, Kamala Harris will be like, I'm not here to, I stand by Joe or whatever. And something happens. Republicans don't want to give them the opportunity to swap out their brain dead president.
I think there are potentially some reasons to be worried or to raise concerns about the House of Representatives in particular, increasingly resorting to extreme methods of registering disapproval. So this is the first impeachment of a cabinet officer since, 1876?
1876.
The Democrats under Trump, as we remember, did 2 impeachments.
They tried many more.
Well, I think they were pretty satisfied with getting 2 in one presidential term. Trump. I mean, a presidential impeachment
of Trump. There were several attempts at presidential impeachments that failed.
Trump?
Yes.
I think once Democrats took the House after the 2018 midterms, they basically immediately launched into a precursor impeachment investigation and then a full-fledged investigation.
There were several attempts under the Democrats, but Pelosi was like, no, and they kept getting defeated.
Yeah, there was a push after the Mueller report.
But they actually introduced articles of impeachment several times.
Oh, yeah. Individual members of Congress did that all the time.
And there were votes on it, and it kept failing until finally, Ukraine.
But the point is, you have Congress using more and more often censure resolutions, which used to be pretty rare. Remember the Democrats in, 2021 censured Paul Gosar for tweeting a meme clip of AOC and Biden like in an anime thing, which is ridiculous. They claimed that it was like literal violence. And then what happened? Well, Republicans reciprocated by passing censure resolutions against, Rashida Tlaib got it in November for basically being against critical of Israel.
Yeah, but look,
so more and more, and then you had the expulsion of George Santos in December, which was without any due process. For that. Right. So the House is resorting to more and more extreme and frequent indications of these previously rarely used powers that's just going to become this endless tit for tat. And I think it's almost a sure thing now that Democrats will retaliate against this and impeach, a Republican cabinet official.
And the problem is it is a pendulum swing with no way to stop it.
Right.
Because if the Republicans say, we're going to take the high road and just keep acting normally, the Democrats will just keep beating the crap out of them. So the Republicans respond with, okay, well then we'll swing back. We'll give them a tit for tat. Because if you don't, I mean, this starts with Democrats. The investigations, the lies, the smears of Trump and Russiagate. The Trump era was the beginning of the psychotic behavior. Granted, Russiagate started even before Trump got elected. They went nuts.
I think the pushback of the pendulum is the people themselves, because if Congress starts to go crazy, if they really start to do that, it's our job to make sure that doesn't happen. As a people, we are in control of our government. We are the government. They're representing us. And if they get haywire, then that's bad for them.
We got to vote them out.
We do have to vote them out.
I
think they forget that all the time. I think they forget that they're ours.
I think
we don't serve them; they serve us.
Anyone who voted to expel Santos has disqualified themselves, 100%. And it's not because I like Santos; it's because he was not convicted of any wrongdoing. And by all means, maybe he will be. But if that's the case, I would accept if they said, "Look, he has been indicted, therefore we will suspend him pending an outcome." Okay, that's fine. If someone gets charged with a crime and it's a serious offense, we will put them in jail pending the outcome. I'm not a big fan of locking people up who can't, I actually am a fan of bail reform. I just don't know that the way New York handles it is the appropriate way to do it. But I think it's a simple argument that if someone is indicted on a crime, depending on the severity of the crime, we can put them in a box and close the door and lock it until we actually resolve this through a trial. It's supposed to be a speedy trial. That being said, in this instance, I'm not saying Santos should be locked up. I think it would have been reasonable if they voted for temporary suspension of committee. And
they do that in the Senate, like Robert Menendez, who was indicted a few months ago. He was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, which is one of the most powerful positions in the Senate, and he then had to step down once he was indicted, because that's a matter of Senate rules. I don't know that the House has a comparable rule, but I'm sort of wary of even imposing any punishment on Santos when he's merely indicted. That's just a set of accusations by the government. That's still imposing a punishment on him absent due process.
I agree. I think they should have done nothing and said, prove it or else.
And by the way, the same goes for Menendez, because he was indicted by the DOJ a couple of years ago, and it went to a hung jury. So
my point is, it is absolutely unreasonable to expel him. The compromise could perhaps be in suspending pending an outcome of the indictments. And I equate that to a guy is accused of murder. We lock him up until the resolution of the trial, in which many people get found not guilty and are released. I mean, Kyle Rittenhouse spent 2 months in jail. I don't like the fact that it turns out innocent people ended up doing time while we're trying to figure things out. My point is, in my personal opinion, Santos should be still in Congress, and he should say, prove it or else. But my point is, it is completely unreasonable to remove him. Yeah, you get my point.
Yeah, and his alleged offenses are comparatively trivial, in relation to what other members of Congress could be theoretically punished for, because Santos was the first member of Congress who was expelled without first being convicted of a crime. And most of those in the past, when there was a conviction, had to do with literal treason against the country, meaning they were Confederates who were in a state of literal legal rebellion. I mean, in 2002, I think it was, James Traficant was the congressman who was previously expelled before Santos, and he was actually convicted of a crime. So if you're going to, for some reason, make this Ohio.
Oh, it was Ohio. Okay.
If you're going to, I mean, that guy was a character too. He died in a tractor accident. But if you're going to sweep aside all precedent and expel Santos without him first being convicted of a crime, and for the conduct to be that he lied about being on a college volleyball team, you're cheapening the tactic. So now it's just going to be used even more commonly for lesser and lesser grave offenses.
To simplify everything, check which district you're in, look at who voted to expel Santos, and campaign against them. That's just it. I think.
Well, it's the New York Republicans who basically generated that whole process.
Sure,
they felt that
you got people in Ohio
because they felt that he would be a political albatross for them when they're running again in 2024. Because they're in marginal districts. There are some Democratic.
Each and every one that voted to oust him, I think, is ineligible. But you're not going to convince Democrats, so the Republicans need to organize. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.